Dr. Michael Gervais.
Stoked to be here with you.
High performance psychology. I mean, we're talking about Super Bowl champions, some of the biggest companies in the world. Fortune 10. I want the website, not Fortune 500.
That's correct.
Fortune 10.
That's a good one, isn't it?
It is a good one. Olympians. And I'm curious, if one of the coaches said, you come talk to our team, 49ers said, Kyle Shanahan, come talk to our team on Saturday. You work very closely with Pete Carroll, right?
Yes.
What would you say? What do you think they need in their minds right now?
Okay, so I'm going to answer the question two ways. One is like practically, if a coach said, "Can you come talk last minute?" I would probably say no, out of respect for all of the work that they've put in place. Like it would be inappropriate to actually do that. But I like the question, right? So let's play with the question.
So you're saying now you got to think of it like I'm their guy for the whole year. I've been working with them all year long.
Right. Yeah. Like when an athlete or a coach or somebody were to call last minute, say, "Hey, I'm going to the Olympic Games and I really want to," I'd be like, maybe I'm not your guy. So the reason I say that is because that can actually undo quite a bit. So if I was with the team for a year and the opportunity was like, hey, let's say something to the team, it would be about trust your stuff, trust your process, trust what got you here, trust your instincts, love up the emotions that you're gonna feel, and then you decide, based on all the work we've done, you decide if you like those emotions or you wanna damp them down a little bit or you wanna let it ride and enjoy it. And so that's like this, the essence of the inner game is knowing how to work well with emotions, how to work with your thoughts so your emotions and thoughts work well together. And oftentimes in these types of situations, people become tight, they get big, they get, not big, they become overwhelmed by the external conditions of the quote unquote pressure of the moment. And so I would just say, listen, you're gonna feel some stuff, love it up. And that's exactly what we did at the Seattle Seahawks. We trained for years though to help them be in the present moment more often and not get overrun by the intensity of any moment.
Yeah.
And I think the most powerful people on the planet are the ones that they determine their experience in life, not the external conditions. Even the most unfortunate external conditions can determine your state of being. And so that's what really excites me about psychology and sports psychology, is helping people understand those tools. And I'll tell you, like the Super Bowl, when we were heading into our first Super Bowl.
The one you're wearing the ring for?
Yes, 48, Super Bowl 48. The intensity in practice all year long was at a fevered pitch. And Earl Thomas was, one of the great safeties in our league, certainly at that time. And he was so intense on practice number 1, practice number 14. It didn't matter. Every practice was a championship opportunity. And he would treat it as such. And you just need one or two that are going to set the temperature of the environment for everyone else to go, oh, I get what the drill is here. I get the assignment. Yeah. And if you've got somebody as fast and as intense as Earl Thomas back there, you better be sharp because he's coming strong. Yeah.
Have you been following Brock Purdy's story this year?
I have.
So
it's tremendous, isn't it?
It's tremendous. We could talk about it for way more time than you
incredible.
have. So one thing in particular, are you religious?
It's a big question.
I know, and I'm asking it as a pre-question. So I guess for the purpose of my question.
Wait, let me answer it. Yes, I'm spiritual.
Okay.
And so I grew up in the Catholic Church. I have fell out of favor with the practices that they have administered to hide children, and that practice writ large is corrupt. I'm having a hard time getting through that. And so, but the idea of the Trinity, the idea of spiritual practice, I'm completely down with.
I'm not particularly religious. I'm Jewish. But I've found...
That's a funny statement. The buttress of those two statements are very funny. Yeah.
We've got 10 minutes, so I'll skip a few thoughts there.
Yeah.
But I've found Brock's faith, and I've talked about it on I don't talk about religion. We talk about the Niners and football in this podcast. But I found his faith really interesting because it seems that it's very clearly what he uses to keep his mind right. And I saw a clip of you talking the other day. You said confidence only comes if it's been forged in the fire to earn the right to say I can do difficult things. And Brock was asked this week, if there's a Bible verse that he recites. He says, yes, the same one every day, Psalm 23, pretty sure. And it is, and to me it's very similar to what you said, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. I thought when I lack nothing is, first of all, he's got like all these great players around him. But when I hear I can do difficult things, it's I lack nothing to me is some version of that.
That's cool, yeah.
Right?
There's probably a stretch in there. Yep.
And I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but to me there is some connection, very strong connection, I think, between what his faith does for him and what you do, what you try to do for people.
Okay, so yeah, let's be very clear that there are the church, whatever that means to you. And fun story, I was at the championship game sitting behind Brock's dad and his brother. And so each time that Niners were on defense, Brock's dad and his brother, and his uncle was one over, his dad and his brother would have their head down. It was very clear that they were praying.
Yeah.
So, which I'm not sure what they were praying for, but you know, like my experience of God, it doesn't work that way. But like pray for a win, I'm not sure that's what's happening.
Yeah,
pray
Brock has said he is, sorry to interrupt you. Brock
Yeah.
is saying he is praying just not to win, but
right.
just for that, just to center himself.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Brock on this. It was fun to just see the family do that. So okay. So let's be clear that what you're pointing to is a philosophical position. Okay. I lack nothing. That's a philosophy. And whether it's an organized religion or a philosophy from Aristotle, those ideas can provide a perspective and a solace and a framing of your mind. It's great. Philosophy, whether it's in the religious lane or the academic lane, is amazing because it helps to frame experiences. Okay, psychology, the practice of psychology offers another step, which is how do you train your mind? How do you condition your mind to be about that idea? So let's go back to I lack nothing as a philosophy. One is I actually think that there's a little bit of problem with that statement because it's like saying I'm never going to airball. I would rather that statement be I have everything I need already inside me. Okay?
That's how I interpret that.
Yeah, but you have to do some gymnastics.
Okay.
Okay, but it does get to that place. I have everything I need inside me. That thought is a very powerful thought. Now, as soon as Mike Tyson has a great quote, as soon as you're punched in the mouth, you know, the plane goes out the window, whatever it is, right? So when you have those great thoughts, but then you get chin checked in any kind of way, how do I know that it's real?
Right.
So that's why we do mental skills training. And some organized religions have some mental skills training, like prayer before meals is a mental skills training. Sitting in silence and listening to your thoughts, listening for God maybe, is a mental skills practice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we do in sports psychology specifically is we say, great, that's a badass philosophy, love it. How do you train your mind to be consistent with those thoughts, even when the environment around you is falling apart?
Yeah.
And so that's the next step that hopefully sports psychology can be a better tool for more people going forward.
It's interesting because Brock's had 2 straight games where he hasn't been great to start the game and then has been better as the game has gone along. So whatever it is, clearly he's got something, right, that helps him react in a positive way to some failure. Whatever that is, I don't know. Maybe it's this, right? But the indications are, it seems to be, he hasn't talked about it extreme length, but it seems to be some version of
what prayer, a la meditation or mental skills training can do is a repeated nature of a thought. And so when you repeat thoughts over and over again, they become more familiar. And when you repeat them and think about them, they become a bit more heavier. So let's say one of the great skills in sport is to let go of a mistake. We all make mistakes. Right? That happens every game. We're going to see it at the Super Bowl. Mistakes are going to happen. Okay, so how do you let go of mistakes? One way to do that is a philosophy, which is kind of pointing to what we're talking about here, is that, hey, everyone's going to make a mistake, and then you have your teammates say, I got you.
Yeah.
So that idea is like, oh, I'm not alone in this. I don't need to be perfect, and somebody else has recognized that when I make a mistake, I'm going to be okay in their eyes. That type of teammate-ness, that type of teaming,
I like that.
teammate-ness can be very, very powerful for people to go, okay, we're going to work in reality, because perfection is not reality.
Yes.
We're going to work in the reality of the mess of an environment. And then if you can say the same thing to someone else, look, when you make your mistakes, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one way. Another way is more internal. So internally, now we're talking about the psychology, how do you mechanically let go of a mistake? It is to bring your attention back to the present moment, to the task at hand. So if your mind is thinking about the mistake and then zooming forward to the disasters that could come from that mistake, you're not in the present moment. Okay, so that sounds almost trite. Be in the present moment.
Right.
Like, that's actually where the whole game happens.
Yeah.
Is the discipline and the training to have your mind to be right here, right now, and to let go of what could come later, the disasters of the glory, and then let go of what just happened. And if you practice, if you have a set of practices for your mind to be fully present over and over and over again, that is a great practice to be excellent when the lights are on and the stakes are high. And that's what mental skills training can do for athletes.
Do some people just have it? I'm thinking about Joe Montana.
No, the only people that we found that have it, meaning their ability to be fully present when the lights are on, so to speak, are narcissists. So,
well, is there a correlation?
Yeah, a narcissist says, look, just turn the lights on, I'm good.
Well, is there a correlation to narcissism and maybe some supreme athletes?
Yes. 100%.
Right.
And that, let's say that in the normal population, narcissism is about 2%, like true narcissistic personality disorder. And then in elite performing environments, business and otherwise, there's a version down of NPD, which we kind of throw around like that's a narcissist, but not truly a narcissistic personality disorder. And in those high performing, high stress, high octane environments, it's probably like 20%.
Wow.
But it's not the true disorder, right? It's like the difference between a true clinical diagnosis of depression and somebody that is just kind of feeling down. So there's a difference between those two. So the narcissist in those elite high-octane environments is accepted, it's recognized, it's nurtured, right? They become difficult in a lot of cultures.
Yeah.
But turn the lights on and they show up, but they might not show up in practice. They might not show up in other environments where it kind of pulls apart a team. And so the rest of us, mental skills are part of the game. I wouldn't trade narcissism for being able to train your mind.
Because you can train your mind.
Because you can train your mind.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I saw Christian McCaffrey, somebody asked him, there's a lot of things Christian says that I'm sure you know, that are very interesting, and his off-season training with surfers and all this stuff. But I saw a clip of him the other day from several months ago. He said, what I'm thinking about before the play, 3 things: breathe, hear the play, explode. I think he said his baseline is he wakes up emotionless. That's supposed to be the baseline. I don't. So, but he seems like a guy that has put in a lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah, one breath, one thought is something we would do at the Seattle Seahawks all the time. One breath, one thought, and so
that is during game action.
Yeah, there's always break in action. So during action, you want to be pure. You want to be more like like a cheetah or something. You're just kind of going.
Yeah.
But in between, one breath, one thought. So one breath is like check in, and breathing is, you need to train what I'm talking about. So it's not just one day in games you show up and you say, I want to breathe. You know, one breath is going to be it. You need to train it off-season, pre-season, on a regular basis. But what breathing does is it helps regulate your system. It helps create a forcing function to be in the present moment as well. And then one thought becomes directional. And it can either be about your confidence or about what you're going to go do. So explode is his thought.
Do you have a personal mantra?
Yeah. Everything I need is already inside me. And so, so that's a mantra that helps me. And that is a spiritual. That's not an arrogant, narcissistic. No, that is a spiritual framing that some of the best parts of me are dormant. Some of those best parts are afraid to come out. But everything I need is already inside me. I do need to be attuning for myself to pay attention to how I'm doing right now and how I want to bring the best of me forward.
I didn't mention when I introduced you, not that it needs my promotion, findingmastery.com
Thank you. Yes.
is your website, and your company.
Yes.
And it's and your podcast.
And the podcast. Yes.
And I mean, it's just an incredible. I would encourage people to go look at it. Even if as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it going, what are all the things that these people do? So it's corporate, it's individualized for athletes, it's team athletes.
Yeah. So essentially what we've done is, so Finding Mastery Podcast is conversations with the extraordinaries about how they use their psychology. And then what we've done for our company is we've taken best practices from sport and elite psychology and crosswalk them into organizations to be able to cascade how can your team or your organization, how can your people train their minds just like we train the 63 athletes and 25 coaches in a sport football organization. How can we do that in larger organizations? And so Microsoft is kind of our biggest client, and we've been with them 10 years to be able to cascade best practices across the organization. And that's like a beautiful model of what modern business and modern leadership look like. They are finding success in other industries, and they're saying, hey, this ability to be mentally tough and be great teammates and pivot and adjust to hard times. Like, how do you guys do that?
Yeah.
Oh, we train our mind. Can we get some of that?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the coolest thing about what I've done in broadcasting, working with athletes, and I always tell guys, like I worked with a guy a couple weeks ago named Earl Watson, who was a very good basketball player at UCLA and in the NBA, had a very good career. And afterwards I said, hey, just one thought. I was watching the game, some feedback. And he said, hey, thanks, man. You can always give me feedback. I said, I know I can. The athletes are not the ones that can't handle the feedback. Like, you guys have been yelled at. Me telling you, like, hey, don't forget to look at the camera is not gonna, it's the rest of us that struggle a little bit more with understanding that feedback is just coaching.
This is one of the things I love to celebrate about athletes, is that we see them and we think, because they look different for the most case.
Yeah.
I mean, the bodies are special in almost every elite sport. And we look at that and we think, oh, they're born differently. There is some genetic coding for some, not to be confused. But what we're missing is how much they work and how fundamentally committed they are to being their very best in environments. We call it practice, but those environments are dangerous. Not physically, but emotionally and mentally. Because you've got a grown man that holds power of whether you play or not. The NFL is a day-to-day contract. This is not like just because you have a year contract or 2 year that you're guaranteed anything. Like, it's a day-to-day contract. And so you've got grown men that are deciding whether you're gonna play, how much you're gonna play, whether you're any good or not. You've got your peers that are right next to you, watching you get maybe yelled at, watching you get dressed down, watching how you respond, watching for your weaknesses because they want your job. And we're doing this all in the spirit of a team. It is very, very difficult to be psychologically sound in a high pressure, high octane environment. And that is why they have for years said, oh, at this level, the most important part of the game is mental. We all are physically talented. We're all technically talented. We all have the chops. At this level, and then it begs the question, well, how much are you actually training the mind?
Yeah.
Because you got the idea, it's mental, and so modern, elite, forward-pushing organizations are carving out time to make sure that mental skills are part of the practice. And it's a really exciting time for all of us, in business and in sport.
Dr. Michael Gervais, thank you. Appreciate it. This was fun. This was awesome.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate you having me on and creating the space for us to have this conversation.
It was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, thank you.